what's up, folks? Welcome back to On Texas Football, and welcome back to your Tuesday night live stream. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers, pleased to be joined by fellow Lifetime Longhorn young prodigy C.J. Vogel and my esteemed colleague and good friend Jeff Howe joining us as well on the Tuesday night live stream. We got a ton to get into on the show today. I don't know if there's enough time to hit all the different items in the jam-packed show. We'll hit the two commitments for the Longhorns, two five-star commitments to elite players. We'll get into that on the defensive side of the ball. That's important. We'll also talk about an upcoming announcement that may be big for the Longhorns, one Derrick Cooper, the big-time running back prospect. Also, Sark was at the podium, so was Michael Taft. Anthony Hill was also at the podium too, and of course, Arch Manning. So we'll talk about the things they had to say. So if you guys want to talk about, put any questions, comments out there. We'll try to address as many of them as we can. Super chats jump to the front of the line. You can interrupt the show at any time. Just throw them out there. Yes, Lou Dog. Boom, boom, double boom today. Jeff, you actually may have answered a hell of a trivia question earlier today. Yeah. That is funny. Well done. That is art right there, baby.
How did you do that?
That's amazing. I guess that's just real skill right there. But
anytime I'm having a bad day, I'm just gonna watch that clip.
Yeah, we gotta tweet that out so people have access to that. That belongs to the people. All right, something that good, Matthew. You can't keep that just to us. But the last time Texas got two five-star elite players like this, back-to-back defensive players on the same day, Bobby couldn't think of it. Then you actually you remember a scenario, or at least an example of this, not that recently, but it has been in the last couple of decades or so.
Yeah, and I thought of another one too, actually. So the one that I referenced earlier today was Jackson Jeffcoat and Jordan Hicks.
Yep,
committed on the same day. And if you go back to signing day in 2016, I have to go back and see if these guys were actually both five stars at the time, but Brandon Jones and Eric Fowler both committed to Texas on the same day, on signing day. So 3 out of 4 ain't bad.
Ain't bad.
So, other than, Eric Fowler had a brief run at Texas, but you're talking about a consensus All-American, a guy that's played double-digit years now in the league, and then Brandon Jones, who was a top 100 pick. Yeah, you're in good company if you're James Johnson and Tyler Atkinson.
Yeah, no, it is. It's and both of those guys are studs. I mean, we've talked about it. But quickly, CJ, your thoughts just overall, because I haven't heard them, just about Texas, the momentum now. But Longhorn fans were looking for this momentum. Did something change on the side for Texas here, or is this just what Texas has been doing, and they once again recruiting to the whistle? Staying, dedicated to their approach, to their methodology? Is it just Texas doing what they do, or did something shift or change here?
I think it's Texas flexing its muscle, right? And two, I think it's another indication or another example of when Texas truly wants player X, Texas is going to get player X, right? And that's been the case, right? Justice Terry should have been the first example that we could point to and say, yes, before then it was Colin Simmons. Before then it was Anthony Hill. It was Arch Manning. When Texas truly puts its sights around a player that they want, regardless of where they're at, regardless of, even the price tag, Texas is going to find a way to get them, right? That's been what they do. I know over the last month or so, maybe some folks would hear that and say, I don't know if I believe that, but today should be basically the end of what the naysayers would say about Texas's recruiting efforts. Steve Sarkisian, put this into perspective. Kirby Smart started today on the podium, right? He started today on the podium with a 5-star linebacker in his state, head-to-head battle, ready to go for him. And he had another 4-star top 75 defensive lineman from the SEC territory committed to him in his class. And he left Atlanta today with neither of them in their class or headed to their class anymore. Steve Sarkisian spent 5 hours in Atlanta, left with a 5-star linebacker and a 4-star, really talented interior defensive lineman. And he looked like a mob boss doing exactly that. He walked around knowing exactly what was about to happen behind the scenes. while having a straight face and telling everybody around that would listen for media days saying, hey, it's status quo. This is the standard. That's exactly what it felt like. And look, I watched Steve Sarkisian leave the building today. There was a smirk there. He knew what type of heist he just pulled out of Atlanta. And look, again, Flipmas, I know we normally talk about in October, November, December. It doesn't hurt to get a nice little mid-year gift in terms of a flip from Georgia, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, it's interesting that it all happened. I mean, you couldn't have scripted it better for Texas. You know, Kirby Smart being on the podium. Of course, Texas right now trying to reach that standard. You know, they still got to play Georgia in Athens next season. Sark got to try to get over that Kirby Smart hurdle, if you will. And a big part of that is part of what made Georgia great recently in this dynastic run is that, you know, nobody really knew until a few years ago that Atlanta was becoming what it is now, which is the most fertile recruiting metro area in the country. Now it's well known. That's why Sark is in Atlanta. That's why he's hired all these guys with ties to Atlanta. And then Sark gets two guys related, or at least in one of them a prospect from that Atlanta metro area, another guy committed to Georgia, and he's able, man, to, like you said, take both of those guys right out from underneath Georgia's nose. That's saying a lot, considering you haven't beaten Georgia yet. You haven't overcome the Kirby Smart hurdle, so you don't even have that card to play yet in Atlanta. You're doing this without the trump card, which is, oh no, we can beat Georgia. And whenever you do that, man, you really don't make some inroads there, in my opinion.
It's pretty interesting, and I'm just now drawing the conclusions, or kind of connecting dots here. So bear with me while I piece it together to explain to y'all. But when there's an example for Texas to kind of stand toe-to-toe or be compared, basically straight to a Georgia or an Alabama, it's been their MO to kind of come out on top, right? You look at the NFL Combine and what those narratives have been leaving the Combine, it's been about the fastest group of players belong to the Texas Longhorns. You look at the NFL Draft, 24 or 23 now over the last 2 years. Of course, Stark knew coming into today that, hey, I'm going to be speaking on the same day as Kirby Smart. What kind of impact can I have, and how can I really come out on top in comparison to that of a Tennessee, an Auburn, a Georgia who spoke today? If you think it was coincidental that Tyler Atkinson was on the McAfee show today, I got some other things to tell you. That was definitely by design.
Yeah. If you can win in SEC Media Days, if that's a thing, kind of based on all the circumstances, you're like, no, Texas won that with the Tyler Atkinson commitment, and then, of course, James Johnson, and just ultimately, Arch, which we'll get to here in a second, too, being a kind of featured celebrity of SEC Media Days. All right, get your questions in. We'll try to address as many of them as we can, of course. We got a super chat here from Rich Money Cash, who says, hide the money, y'all. It's poor people around.
What a name for that chat.
From the great reparation skit from Dave Chappelle, in case you don't know the reference. Yeah, and he's talking about Texas. There was some people that, Sark we talked about that a little bit. We'll get to those comments about, the perception about Texas is that, yes, they can throw money around and they can money with the best of them. Sark does battle against that narrative, though, a little bit, and he has. And we'll talk about that a little bit coming up, too. But, all right, before we move on, CJ, we were talking about, of course, Texas now getting momentum on the recruiting trail. What is the latest and the announcement coming from Derrick Cooper? When is it coming, and what's the latest there with Texas having so much momentum right now on the trail?
Yeah, look, momentum is a real thing. Let's not toss that aside. Whether it be in a game, whether it be on recruiting. For a while it felt like Texas was walking through, or really crawling through, a desert in the middle of June, heading into the first couple of weeks of July. That has since turned, obviously, and today, certainly the biggest example. Now, July 20th, will that momentum continue? That's when five-star running back Derrick Cooper out of Chaminade, Florida, is expected to make his decision. And look, if you've been following On Texas Football, or if you're subscribed over there on TexasFootball.com, what I'm about to tell you isn't anything new, right? Texas has made quite a jump in this recruitment. And right now, look, I know Jerry had his own percentages. I'm ready to tell you, I think Texas is right there, 60-40 in the lead. I think Texas, after speaking with somebody down there in Florida, speaking to someone down in Miami certainly knows what's ahead of them in terms of what they need to do to overcome Texas. Now, the way it was explained to me is that Miami is prepared to go to war with Texas in terms of the financial NIL preparations to present to Derrick Cooper. But there's other factors at stake, right? Texas currently doesn't have a running back in the class. Miami does. I think when you look at the potential of a Trey Wisner departing after this year, as well as a CJ Baxter, hey, the path to the field is significantly more open than what it might be perceived to be given a quick look at the Texas depth chart right now. So, and all of this, again, it comes without Texas even hosting Cooper for an official visit. So when you look around and you say, hey, they have the number one quarterback in the country. Now they have one of the top edge rushers, one of the best defensive line classes. They already have a 5-star offensive lineman in the class. Look, for Derrick Cooper, it's a very intriguing group of guys to go play with. And that's where I think a lot of the attention is, again, without even taking an official visit in the month of June. I think Texas is in the lead, and I know that 5 days in recruiting is an eternity. But until I hear otherwise, I'm going to kind of move around as if Texas is the team to beat here.
All right, good news for Longhorn fans. Before we move on, let me thank one of our sponsors for tonight's program, our friends Andy Ludicky and his team. We appreciate them very much for sponsoring our Tuesday night live stream. If you're looking to diversify, you may be someone like myself that has their hands in different businesses. Well, Andy can help you diversify by finding you different businesses that will fit your time allotment and your financial goals. You've been stuck in the corporate rat race with 2 weeks PTO and no control over over the money you make or your schedule in general. Call Andy and he'll take you through a very detailed process to help you find a business that will fit your skill sets and your financial goals. Franchise ownership isn't for everyone, but if you have a desire to take control of your financial destiny, don't wait. Reach out to Andy Ludick and his team today. Call him at 404-973-9901, or you can reach out at Andy@myperfectfranchise.net. That's Andy@myperfectfranchise.net. Thank you very much, Andy Ludicky and his team, for sponsoring our Tuesday night live stream here on Texas Football. All right, guys, we got to start with this. I thought it was fake. Not going to lie. I thought it was fake. I know when I saw it online, I was like, that's fake. That's not real, because I didn't watch it in real time. That Sark was introduced, and the song that was played was the Aggie fight song, like the Aggie battle hymn or whatever. This is real.
Unfazed.
I'm not gonna lie, dude. I literally thought, I was like, man, that's clever that the Aggie did that. That was pretty clever. They would have put the little, Aggie hymn over Sark being introduced. Ha ha. Nope, that's what really happened. Jeff, I gotta throw it to you here. What you saw it live? What happened, and what were your thoughts while it was going down live?
I'm not saying, but I'm saying I saw Billy Lucci earlier in the day, and I didn't have eyes on Billy when that happened. But I kid, I just. I look, from what I was told, Sark was unfazed by that. So one thing that I'll say about how the media day is set up, and Greg Sankey mentioned this yesterday, they've got arrows on the stage that direct when you're walking up on the dais. They got arrows pointing like you walk this way to get up and you walk this way to get down. So, because, one wrong step and you're face planting on national TV. So I think Sark was so focused on not tripping on a step, tripping on the carpet, that I don't think it registered what was going on. My flabbers were gasted, man. Like, I'm sitting there. That wasn't the clip from, I think that was Travis Brown from KBTX. That was his clip. But if you, the one CJ posted on Twitter, you can probably hear me like, I'm sitting, because I was sitting next to CJ when it happened. I'm just going, oh no, oh no. Like, I thought it was a rib, and it just kept going and going. So, yeah, it's what I was told though was the SEC employee who was working the board apparently like just started working at the conference. So it was probably literally an honest mistake. But yeah, no word on whether or not Mike Elko's coming out to Texas fight.
That would be awesome if they did that. They're like, hey man, we want to make it balanced. We want to be fair and balanced here in the SEC. That'd be pretty cool. They won't do that. But yeah, that was very Big 12 like for some hijinks like that to happen. Oh, here's CJ's. Here it is.
I think that's Jeff and I towards the back end of it. I think just kind of chuckling to one another as all of that was happening. But it was so bizarre. Again, Jeff, I'm with you. I don't think Sark. I don't think it really registered what was happening. But the minute that we heard that first note, I'll tell you, we know it was Texas Day at the SEC Media Days. The first 3 or 4 rows of the entire auditorium was filled with Texas beat writers, folks that covered the University of Texas. It looked like the front row to the Beyonce concert down here in Atlanta over the last week. Everybody was like, wait a minute, like, what's going on here? It was papers were flying, pens were thrown. And Sark was unfazed. I don't think he had any idea what was going on.
I expected him. You know what? I think you guys are right. I think your theory about him being so focused that he was so focused out in on how he was going to start his presentation. And like Jeff said, hey, my steps, everything, I'm looking right, make sure I'm good. That I don't even know if he heard it until maybe it registered late. Because I expected him to make a comment about it. Make a little comment. Right. Sark was in the joking mood because the first question was about red zone, and he joked about that with the guy. Like, okay, yeah, you're gonna start with red zone offense. Okay. You know what I mean? He joked about that. So he was in the joking mood. It wasn't like he was super serious. I think, like you said, he was so dialed in, guys. I don't think it registered at all to maybe at the end or maybe not. I can't wait till we get to ask him. You guys got to ask him now. I know you don't want to waste the question with Sark, but the next media availability, somebody's got to ask the man, okay, dude, when did it register that was the Aggie fight song? Or did it register at all? Or did John B. Uncle tell you when you got done, like, dude, they screwed up and you walked out? Right? You know that. Just like, what? So I got to know now. Now I got to know. I'm down. I might want to text John B. Uncle right now and just say, dude, I just want to know between me and you. Did he know? Did it register with him? Because you're right, he was unfazed, man. I was part proud of him, and partly I wanted him to make a little snide comment. Part of me wanted him to take a little shot, take a little jab, so we could say something like, "Is this the Big 12?" Anyway, let's get started, guys. Just take a little shot, but it's okay. He's a classy guy, so he ain't gonna do that.
I'll say this though, Syracuse Horn in the chat makes a good point. So Sark is better with questions than the monologue. I think you got to understand, like, this press conference, coaches have to go for 30 minutes. And, coaches don't want to field a ton of questions up there because, the more opportunities, it's a loose way of playing with that Nathan Vasher theory, Rod. The more opportunities you get to answer questions, the more you run the risk of backing yourself into a corner.
Boom.
So basically, it's kind of like you're defending a thesis. Like, you got to come up there prepared with, like, this dissertation of it. Like, go back. We've got the transcript, and I'm looking at the transcript right now. Like, Sark's opening statement is like a 3,000-word essay. Like, it is detailed. So I'm sure he was focused on not screwing any of that up because he probably knew what he wanted to say. So, yeah, I say all that to say, like, it probably didn't register with him, but he handled it probably about as good as you could. Yeah, I thought it was a rib at first. I was waiting for, like, the joke to happen, and it never happened.
Never happened. Yeah, he just kept going. And I was like, oh, is that never happened? So, no, it was great. He handled it. He's a pro. I mean, he still was polished and fantastic. And Sark is always better answering questions. And my theory is that he's so authentic and so genuine that he's just comfortable just responding and giving you that response rather than, and he's still great when he's just, opening, kind of doing a soliloquy or whatever it may be. He's filibustering. He's still fine doing that, but he's really good answering questions. Matter of fact, we'll get to some of those questions and some of his responses coming up here momentarily.
Real quick, I had 2 little pieces I wanted to add to that. The first, I had a coach text me from around the country just saying, was that real or was that AI? And I was like, no, it was real. And then they followed that up by saying, I don't think I'd go up on that stage if that was the song they were playing for me.
Ooh.
Pretty good stuff there. But of course, I mean, again, I kind of feel like, this is one of those things going back to Sark, when he's dialed in, is like, hey, I'm thinking of my first 10 plays on my script. Do not get in my way when I'm running out the tunnel. I've got my mindset on one thing, and that's what I'm about to do. And it was funny. I asked Michael Taff after he wrapped up his availability at media days. I said, hey, did you catch the walkout for Sark? And he didn't. He was upstairs doing some interviews of his own, and he goes, no, what happened? I said, oh, well, they actually played the A&M fight song, as he entered the podium, and he goes, oh my goodness.
I know, it's surreal. It's like, you can't believe that real. Like, oh yeah, it's real. It actually did happen. I like that theory though. I saw somebody else in the chat say that, he should just protested. He should have literally just sat there and then waited till they rectified, because they'd have rectified it. They'd been paying, and then they were like, what's going on? We're like, what? You hear that?
Sat at the foot of the steps.
Yeah, I'm not going out. Y'all play the right song, and I'll go out to it. Y'all try to that would have went hard. Longhorn fans would have loved. They'd have loved that if Sark would do that. But Sark is too class. Sark's not trying to get into a troll match with anybody. He's not trying to do that. But like I said, that was funny. That was interesting. All right, so
can y'all imagine if Tom Herman would have had to react to that?
Double bird. Hit a double
or
double bird, y'all. Whatever.
Or basically, pretty much anybody from the Urban Meyer coaching tree. If they had Dan Mullen, Urban Meyer, anybody, if Ryan, imagine Ryan Day going out for Big Ten media days and they start playing the fight song. Yeah, So props to Sark for keeping it. That was an impressive double bird too, Rod. Yeah, that's our new.
I should have did it. I knew I should have done. That's why I thought about it. I was like, but if I can't do that, no, I had to do it, and I did it.
But the last thing I'll say on it, just real quick, Jeff, you read out the tweet to me earlier. It was probably the best response I saw to it. I believe the tweet, and correct me if I'm wrong, was just like, hey, Sark probably didn't know what that song was. He only heard it once last fall.
Yep. Heard it once before the game, and that was it.
Love it. All right, there you go. So Sark, keeping it classy. That's why we love the man. All right, before we move on, let's thank another one of our sponsors. Thank our friends over at Duck Camp before we move on in tonight's program. Yes, Duck Camp is back, and we are happy about it. Let's welcome back Duck Camp, part of the On Texas football family for sure. Duck Camp gear is made for the people that live for the moments out there where there are fish to catch, birds to hunt, time to kill, and plenty of football to watch. They like doing all that stuff, so they built a company centered around it, based in Austin and dedicated to giving people best-in-class hunting and fishing apparel. Duck Camp has gear that's been tested from the backcountry of Alaska to the dove fields of Texas, already ready to keep you cool and comfortable on those scorching hot summer days. It will stand up to the toughest conditions, but also happily sit down beside a fire and drink a few cold ones. If that's more your speed, that's probably more my speed. Some of their featured items include they got the new sun protection shirts that keep you cool and dry and comfy, available in camo and also in solid colorways, and their iconic game series hats that feel as timeless as the hats found in your grandpa's garage. Be sure to check out the new mallard hat and the pointer hat in the clay colorway. The clay colorway is their fancy way of saying it's their closest color to burnt orange, probably as close as you can get without getting a cease and desist letter. It's really close. I got some gear in there now. Looks like burnt orange. It's really close to it, but it's my Duck Camp gear. So check it out. Here's to great season, y'all. Yes, hunting and football. Shop hunting gear at duckcamp.com. That's duckcamp.com. And thank you very much to our friends over at Duck Camp for coming back on with On Texas Football and sponsoring our Tuesday live stream. All right, how about this one from Juan? Juan with the super chat. Thank you very much, Juan. We appreciate it. Says, what's their backstory is James Johnson flip. So what's the backstory with the James Johnson flip? Also, Sark has a Nick Saban strategy with a Pete Carroll mindset. Oh, that's good. That's a nice little. I like that one at the end there. What are your thoughts about the James Johnson flip backstory to how it all went down?
Yeah, Matthew, if you don't mind pulling up some tape on James Johnson, Texas's newest commit. Tyler Atkinson held that title for about 3 hours. So, but James Johnson's a freak, and his addition to the Texas class gives Texas one of, if not the very best defensive line hauls in all of the country. Look, I love the LSU tandem of Lamar Brown and Richard Anderson. I think that's the best tandem in the country. But what Texas has right now with the 4 guys in its class, plus when you add Richard Wesley on the outside, that's a tremendous haul. I don't know if there are many in the country better than that. But how did we get to this point? Because going into today, as I mentioned, James Johnson was committed to the Georgia Bulldogs. Texas pulls off the flip today. Look, going into his official visit back in June, Texas felt really good about where they sat. They were right there. Obviously, you had to fight Georgia. You had to fight off some of the Florida schools. Yet you sat there saying, he likes Texas. I think the visit back April 12th really opened his eyes to, hey, I could stay and play in a big city. I can kind of go away from home and feel comfortable. And so James Johnson really liked Texas. I think deep down, this was the school that ultimately he wanted to go to. And I think that there were some folks maybe in his camp, maybe some pushing to Georgia, just saying, hey, Georgia's had a very strong run of their own, developing defensive linemen, front 7 players into the NFL. Yet Texas stayed on him after he committed to Georgia. And this feels very Josiah Sharma-esque, right? Towards the back end of June, you're the leader. You see a decision right at the flip of June to July. It doesn't go your way, and before July ends, he's back into your class. That's what it feels like to me, but you see it there. I mean, just a physical, violent specimen there. But credit to Kenny Baker, credit to Alan Clark, Pete Kwiatkowski, Steve Sarkisian, because I think Sark got on the phone pretty early after he committed to Georgia and said, hey, we're not going to give up. We know that you like me. And we know that, and you know that we like you. And for folks who didn't see the commitment analysis or the commitment post that we put up on Texas Football, the YouTube channel earlier, go check that out. But notice where Bobby and Jerry are in that recruitment or in that commitment video, because we've been in this house out here in East Atlanta for about 48? I don't know how to do math now. Since early Sunday.
Yeah, that's right.
And that video was filmed when Jerry's back in California on Friday, and Bobby's back in Nashville on Friday. So props to the OTF team. Look, I'm going to pat ourselves on the back here, fellas, but that was a heck of a job by Bobby, Jerry, Jeff, Rod, Matthew behind the scenes, keeping that one in-house. But this is a really impressive get for the Longhorns, and one that, again, is a jab, if you will, going back to Sark talking today about sticking it to Kirby, essentially.
I mean, this is the Kirby v. Sark, Texas v. Georgia storyline. As a matter of fact, I'm writing on it hopefully for tomorrow at ontexasfootball.com. But what Sark is doing right now is the same thing Kirby did when he got to Georgia. You got to remember, I don't know if people remember, but Georgia was kind of like early 2010s, Mac Brown, Texas. That's where Mark Richt had Georgia. They were kind of between 8 and 10 wins, and they weren't getting any worse, but they weren't getting any better. They were just kind of humming along. And Kirby comes in, changes the culture. I think they go 7-6 that first year. The next year, they're in the title game. And it was top 3 class on top of top 3 class on top of top 3 class. Basically, Kirby took that Nick Saban blueprint, took it over to Athens, and just started stacking talent. I don't think it's any coincidence that Sark took that Nick Saban blueprint, went west, took it to Austin, and it started stacking talent. So it's and I love the way it sets up for the future, because just like Kirby had to slay the dragon that was Nick Saban, now Sark's got to do the same thing with Kirby for Texas to get to where it wants to be. I mean, let's not forget, Georgia's the defending champion in this conference. And for you to win the league, you got to beat Georgia. So the game November 15th in Athens was already big, but now you're just adding a little season into that thing, man. It's quite tasty that Texas Georgia basically it's third matchup between the two teams in 392 days. So it's I'm looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to these two kind of duking it out, because we asked the question, Rod, when Nick Saban retired, is Alabama going to stay on top? Who's kind of next in line in the SEC? I think it's pretty clear that, and Lane Kiffin went on the record saying it yesterday, it's Texas and Georgia battling out on who's the big dog in the SEC.
Yeah, it reminds me of that quote from Peter Burns, who covers the SEC, and he was covering the Texas spring game This was before the 2024 season. And I kept the quote because I remember and I was like, oh, man, that's interesting that he said that. Because I was on the record saying I think Texas and Georgia play. Last year, I said they're going to play 4 to 5 times over the next 2 years. Like, and you know they're going to play during the regular season. We knew that. But I said they'd play in the SEC title games and or play in the college football playoff again. So we got, we know we're going to have 3. I still think you're going to get another one somewhere. SEC title game could happen again. Could happen in college football playoff. I'm not sure how it's all going to go down. But I still truly believe that's the case because I said it would become a de facto, almost a temporary rivalry for Texas. Right, it will become one of those because you're going to have to beat Georgia to get over the hump, become the top dog. Here's the Burns quote. He said, and this was like I said, this was in May 2024. He said, I was just down in Austin and I handled their spring football game, and it looks every bit like the way Georgia looked in 21, 22, and 23. I mean, they get off the bus. They're monstrous people. They're deep in every position. And then he kind of got into some other stuff. But he said the same thing. He said they kind of looked like that's when Kirby was starting to build that thing to a dynastic run. He's also, hinting at Texas on the precipice of something like that. She'll see.
Yeah. I mean, I was up close and personal for when Texas played Georgia and Texas played Ohio State last year. And you watch both teams side by side warming up on the field. There's no difference. Like that's where Sark is. I mean, and people can say, you can talk about dropping bags. Say whatever you want that's going to help you sleep better at night. Texas has one of the probably 3 most talented rosters in the country right now, period.
It's true.
And I think the NFL draft the last 2 years will back up my point on that.
Mm-hmm. Drop the mic.
Drop the mic. Real quick here, I got a question. Oh, how about this? Some super chat from Brandon. He says, Atkinson closing speed is something else. Sheesh. Thank you, Brandon, for that super chat. He's right. Here's my notes on Tyler Atkinson when I was just watching the film, and my 2 and 3 are no hesitation to his game at all. Once he diagnosed the play, he's a bat out of hell. Closing speed is otherworldly, often miscalculated, underestimated by opponents. You can see him, they're surprised by it. The quarterback will think he's got some time, and then Tyler Atkinson will be at the second level, and then a blink of an eye, he's boom on that quarterback's butt. Like, it's just crazy. And once he diagnosed the play, I think he's really patient in his diagnosis, but you can tell he's got really high football IQ because, like I said, it's immaculate angles football. And once I also, and this is a dated reference, I also compared him to a T-1000. For those who don't get it, don't even just go look it up. All right, he's got that kind of presence about him when he's hunting the football.
For the
give me 1 second. Let me find what that is.
Before the kids throw that in the Google machine, that is the answer to the question. Yes, sometimes, kids, the sequel is better than the original.
That's true. Good point.
But when I watch Tyler Atkinson, I'm becoming like the Jordan Hicks stan of the OTF crew. Like, I watch Tyler Atkinson, I see a lot of Jordan Hicks, and the 2 ways that Rod, you laid one of them out. His football IQ at his age right now is off the freaking charts. And Jordan Hicks played high school football in Ohio, played it at a pretty high level, and you can see like this dude's gonna be ready to go day one. I mean, when Will Muschamp was talking about Jordan Hicks saying this guy can play middle linebacker for me like right now and will be ready to go, that sold me enough on Jordan Hicks, even though I saw it. The other thing too, how violent he is when he gets to the football. Like, the closing speed is tremendous. Look at that. The way you close on the ball and make that ball carrier pay for daring to come into your zone. I see a lot of Jordan Hicks, but I think Tyler Atkinson's straight line speed is better than Jordan Hicks.
And let me add this, because I'm a big fan of Tyler Atkinson. I know a lot of folks are saying this is going to be almost a seamless transition from Anthony Hill to Atkinson. Look, let's not forget, Bo Barnes just ran 10.9 at 240 pounds, right? He's going to be in this conversation too, but that's how you get to a point where you're now in the position from the prime Alabama to what we've seen from Georgia over the last 8 years is you've got guys at jumbo size running incredible speeds, playing very good football, and they're all competing at such high levels just to see the field, not even start or contribute, but to get snap or two or a drive on a given Saturday. Matthew, can you pull up? I had a tweet from Anthony Hill earlier today. I had some fun with him. Just asking him about his thoughts on being perhaps the recruiter of the month. And I've seen some comments here in the chat. I'll try to bring some of them up. But, Anthony Hill was one of the guys that when Tyler Atkinson lived in Austin over the summer and was training down at the Collective with Derrick Johnson, Anthony Hill was there. He was one of the guys that orchestrated that whole movement for Tyler Atkinson. On the official visit as well, Anthony Hill sat around and spoke around what it was about Texas that made him want to flip from Texas A&M and what it is about Texas that is so enticing to play at. And obviously Anthony Hill, 5-star kid at the time, coming in, committing to Texas, now a second-team All-American, perhaps the favorite for the Buckus. He's lived up to expectations, and it's all because of the trust that he has for Texas. Here he is kind of giving what his pitch was to Tyler Atkinson and why Texas should be the spot for him. Word on the street is you're quite the recruiter for the Texas football program. What is your pitch to guys that maybe you host, maybe you see on their visits? How do you get them to see the light of Texas?
I mean, I kind of take them around, show them Austin, not just necessarily going out, but just show them the flip side of Austin and what they can do for you outside of football. Like, I kind of show them around the town, show them around Austin, show them what they can do outside of football. And of course, like, I can talk about football all day. I mean, it's all that, but I kind of make sure to talk about outside of football and show them what they could be doing outside of football to help them become a better person, a better player. Then it helps when you got guys like Derrick Johnson and all them around. I can help connect them with them like that. So it's been really cool doing that stuff.
So he mentions stuff outside of football. There's not a school in the country, maybe USC, maybe UCLA, but we know where they're at right now in their football programs and where they stand on a national scale that provides the really just the life of living in a major city, right? This is the NFL equivalent of living in New York or Miami or LA, right? There's nothing like this where you can go to an SEC school, walk down to a downtown 30-story building and call that home. You don't have that luxury, yet that's what these Texas players right now, given where they are and what they've earned so far in college football, that's their life. And I think it's a big selling point to guys who want to get a taste of that.
I saw to that point. I saw a report about Texas Tech's roster and what reportedly they spent on it. Yeah, these are all random. I think the number was like 28 million or something like that. But in the report, though, it did say they have to spend more, like 30% more, because of their destination. And they got to spend like 30% more, like because guys don't want to live out in West Texas. Like, nah, you got to pay me a lot more to come live out there, man. I'm sorry. I also think, and not that there's a big discount. But we'll get into this, what Sark talked about too. I do think for some guys, you don't have to always have the maximum offer on the table because of the, I should say, some of the perks and some of the benefits that you get from being a player in Texas. One of them being Austin, right? And there are a lot of great towns out there, college towns, a lot of great college cities too. I'm not saying that at all. But like CJ says, to have it all in one place, the money, if you value that, you're going to have a competitive offer. But the academics, the city, the team is winning now. You're being developed. The NFL pipeline has been established now. Double-digit players drafted in back-to-back years. Final four in the college football playoff in back-to-back years. It's going to be very few schools that are going to be able to give you all of that in one place. And I think that's why, Sark talks the way he talks about the way Texas recruits and their methodology. Not just being, even though people think, hey, Texas is dropping bags. And I'm not saying they ain't. They can make it rain with the best of them. Raymond Combs said, they got more money than anybody except the Catholic Church, whatever. So they got money. But he is very deliberate and intentional about how he's building his roster, which is, like I said, something we'll get to here in just.
And credit to Brandon Harris there as well. Rod, before we move on, I know we talked about his closing speed, talking about Tyler Atkinson, how quick he is to diagnose and go forward. Have you seen enough from him in coverage, playing some of that drop back if you need him there? Is there anything there yet that stands out to you, or will it be one of those things where it's a work in progress as he continues?
I think it'll be a work in progress, but he's a patient player, which to me says he can, and he's smart, got high football IQ. I think he'll be fine in diagnosing route concepts. The biggest issue for linebackers is depth. Most of them don't get proper depth. Anthony Hill is one of those few linebackers that gets proper depth in coverage, which is why he gets a lot of coverage stops. So I do think that's something that can be taught pretty easily. Hey, be disciplined in the depth, reading your keys, looking at whatever the offense is presenting, that'll give you clues if they're throwing the football or if they're going to run the football. You learn those things and you adjust your depth, all right, accordingly. And if you and also knowing, hey, if I do guess wrong about the run, knowing how to recover and get the proper depth and get to where you're supposed to be, and doing it with intention. Some guys, I got the right depth. Well, what the hell are you looking at when you get to your 12? You know what you're supposed to be looking at. You just got to 12, and then you're just staring at the quarterback. It's like, well, that ain't helping anybody.
Just
right?
check the box.
Yeah, right. You get to your depth. Are you reading the right keys? Do you know exactly what your keys are, and do you understand route combinations, and do you actually know what to do if you see a certain route combinations, or how they're trying to attack you? I think that's all stuff that can be taught. He's got high football IQ. I don't think that's the strength of his game. He's a downhill, sideline to sideline linebacker, almost old school in that downhill approach. The modern game they don't make linebackers like that anymore. Like the modern game doesn't produce linebackers like that. Linebackers like that usually have to be developed, and we talked about this, Jeff. You got to cultivate linebackers these days because they got to just be uber athletes that do everything. This guy has an old school feel in terms of his ability to play as a downhill player and go sideline to sideline. I'm with you, CJ. The only concern would be in the passing game. Is he getting the right depth? Is he somebody that can be exploited in the passing game? I think all linebackers early on are liabilities in the passing game. I think ultimately he'll end up being kind of what Anthony Hill is in coverage, not a liability at all. And at times I think he can be pretty sound in coverage on the back end. So he brings different strengths to the table. I wouldn't have him in coverage, too much. I would ultimately have him as a guy. Like I said, I don't know. I don't think he's a pass rusher that Anthony Hill is, but I think from the second level he can be a nice rusher, simulated pressures and blitzes and things like that.
In the words of the great Will Muschamp, you don't train a thoroughbred to run backwards.
That's cool.
He's a downhill guy. And look, there are certain Texas players where I can't make a direct comparison. Like if you're a quarterback, I'm not going to compare you to Vincent Paul Young Jr. because that's not fair. He's a one-of-one. Derrick Johnson to me is a one-of-one. Rod, you played with DJ. You saw early Derrick Johnson. But if Tyler Atkinson, his work with DJ, that's part of building a good foundation, because if you look at Derrick Johnson's football career, the second half of his NFL career was much better than the first half, because as the game changed and the NFL became more of a space and pace league, DJ's skill set was perfect for that. And you remember, young Derrick Johnson was a violent, nasty downhill player. Mm-hmm. As he got older, the football IQ kicks in, and he's able to play from depth, and he's able to understand coverages, and he's able to make plays on the ball. That's how he makes a couple All-Pro teams. It goes to 4 Pro Bowls. So I think, I don't want to overblow Tyler Atkinson working out with Derrick Johnson, but if DJ's kind of the part of that mold of kind of what a modern-day off-ball linebacker should be. I think we can all agree, like, if you just turn DJ loose and let him rush the passer, like, yeah, he would be great at that, but you're not making him play left-handed at that point, but you're taking away so much of the well-rounded skill set that made Derrick Johnson the player he is. So, bottom line with Tyler Atkinson, if I'm Johnny Nansen and Pete Kwiatkowski, I don't want him to play like Anthony Hill. I don't want him to be like, yeah, you're going to X number of snaps, we're going to make sure you're rushing the quarterback. No, I want to maximize that skill set, which means sometimes, I do maybe want to mug him up front and then boom, drop him back and have him play at depth where he can read the quarterback's eyes and go sideline to sideline. So yeah, I just think he's a rare cat, like you said, Rod. He plays like a throwback player, but the football IQ, the tools lead you to believe like he's everything you want a modern day off-ball linebacker to be.
And I honestly, Jeff, to the point, your point about him being, or at least his skill set being a modern skill set for linebacker, I think he's great he'll be great versus dual threat quarterbacks as a spy when you need him. Guy. Like he, you know what I mean? Because his closing speed's so great, got good football IQ, tackles really well in open space. I think he'll be fantastic as a spy. You need more and more of those guys. Like Texas, we use a lot of spies this year. Think about all the dual threat quarterbacks they're going to face. Probably like 5 or 6 of those guys on the schedule. All right, let's thank one more sponsor. Then we'll hear from Steve Sarkisian and talk about some of the things that he had to say, as well as some of the other guys who are at the podium representing Texas. Let's thank our friend Mark Saunders for being a part of the On Texas football family and sponsoring our live stream here on Tuesday. Thank you very much to Mark Saunders, folks. If you are looking to, obviously make sure that the most important things in your life are covered, your car, your house, your life, all those different things. All right, our friend Mark Saunders does a great job here in the Central Texas area of making sure you get all those things that matter most to you covered, and you can get it all under the Allstate umbrella. Texas Allstate agent Mark Saunders is the only insurance agent you need. Everything from your home, car, your boat, motorcycle, RV, ATV, you name it. Call Texas Allstate agent Mark Saunders' office today at 512-218-8571. Are you in good hands? With more than 35 years of experience, you will be with Texas alum Mark Saunders. If you're looking for someone local that you can trust right here in the Austin Round Rock area, give them a call today, 512-218-8571. That's 512-218-8571. And thank you very much to Mark Saunders for being a part of the On Texas football family and sponsoring our Tuesday night live stream. All right, Jim, let's hear from Sark a little bit, and we'll get back to your questions, but you guys were there. But one of the things that I thought, and I want to get you guys' thoughts about what you thought Sark said that stood out to you. One of the things that I thought was really interesting is when he talked about basically kind of the roster construction of the team. There were a ton of questions about different things that we'll get into, but when he talked about building the roster and recruiting like nationally, and I believe my man Matthew has this clip. It's the second one, Matthew, I believe, that we discussed. Yes, here's Sark talking about building the roster and the kind of the nationalized recruiting approach. Obviously, 2 big wins on the recruiting trail for him today.
I think in this day and age of recruiting, one thing is of note. Players are leaving states all over the place, going to other states to go play. And we've had a ton of players leave the state of Texas and go play at other schools. We've obviously made it a point to recruit more in the southeastern region. I think when we moved into the SEC, it was a lot more natural for players from Louisiana, Alabama, Florida, Georgia to be willing to come play at the University of Texas. They were already kind of going to A&M because they were in the SEC, but now that we've joined the conference, it's a lot more palatable for those families and for those kids to want to come play at Texas, knowing we're playing in the Southeastern Conference. And so we've tried to take advantage of that. Again, we don't major in that, but we do definitely try to recruit the high-level players that fit our scheme, that made of the right stuff, not only as football players, but as people. And so far, so good. Like I said, we recruited Florida, we recruited in Georgia, we're recruiting Alabama, we're recruiting Louisiana, and it's been good to us. But at the same token, we're still recruiting the state of Texas. We got a lot of great players in our own state as well. So, but again, I think we've got a good product, and the product is what we've been putting on the field and in the classroom, and the success we've had as a team, success our players have had in the classroom, and then the success that our players have had getting drafted in the NFL. And I think all those things adding up are, we're an attractive school for players to want to come take a look at. And then if we can start to develop the relationships the right way and start to weed out some of those that are just there to take the trip and really hone in on the ones that we think fit us, then we try to take advantage of it.
All right, there you go. That's Sark talking about some of their, at least the recruiting philosophy. There's no doubt it is used to rodism, don't major in. No, Sark kind of used it a lot, the major in it, minor in it, that kind of thing. But what are your thoughts, guys? I mean, there's definitely a method to it. And Sark, I don't know if there's a certain amount in state, out of state. It does seem to be more out of state influence on the roster, period, taking advantage of the SEC branding because now you can recruit in those SEC territories. Yes,
definitely. And even in that, Sark mentioned, right, the Texas A&M move.
He did.
To the SEC beforehand, right? He basically just said, hey, it gave them an advantage that we just quite frankly didn't have. And look, before Sark got on stage, he met with local beat reporters and gave about a 20-minute, talk back and forth with us. And I asked him a very similar question, but more in the sense of how do you balance recruiting the in-state of Texas, your backyard, while still going national? And Rod, we've had this discussion with Coach Shipley on the Winning Drive a few times, because I think, yes, you want to bring in all these national guys. It makes your brand that much more popular, but there are going to be times where you're going to want to lock down your state of Texas. And, things are much more transactional in the sense that, hey, relationships still matter, yes, but there are going to be times where doors are going to open up elsewhere because of the way that the game is played in recruiting. But he gave me a great answer, just saying, I would love to recruit the state of Texas, but I know that my job is to put the best football team on the field possible. If that means that I can find a player elsewhere that is going to be a good culture fit, a good schematic fit, anything else that helps me win a national championship, I've got to pursue that path. And that's what Texas has done this year with the most out-of-state official visitors that I've frankly ever seen while covering Texas football. So I think Brandon Harris, and the rest of the recruiting department, they've done a great job of, one, compiling the list of guys that they want per position. Two, weeding out guys that maybe just are there for the dollars and the cents, right? Sark mentioned that in the conversation. And then three, pursuing them whether they're in the backyard of the state of Texas or they're national. And now that Texas is winning on the field, again, there are doors now that Texas can get into just by saying, hey, you see the logo on the chest, it's a Longhorn. We're a pretty good team. We're a big deal right now. That previously that could not have been done.
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, now you're going into Miami. We talked about this a little, Jeff. I can't remember Texas getting inroads in Miami. Obviously, that feels new too. I think it's all part of having that SEC brand. And yeah, he gave the Aggies some props. I mean, yeah, Sark came out. Somebody trolled him with the Aggie him, and he still gave the Aggies some props, saying, "Hey, the Aggies." So for all you remember, this was a long debate among Longhorn fans about whether the Aggies benefited from the move and how much they benefited, and it was, I think, for at least most of the educated fans, it's like, of course they benefited from that move. It's a huge benefit for the Aggies. There you have Sark saying years later, like, yeah, man, we knew based on what they did, we was gonna get a bump. We knew we was gonna get a bump based on getting to SEC, and they got it, no question. Or still getting it.
It's been remarkable.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jeff.
And I apologize, everybody. I'm on the struggle bus. I'm in the Airbnb, so this is not my normal setup. I can't figure out how to turn the damn ceiling fan off and keep the light on.
Oh, it drew me nuts. I have no idea.
I'm in the same room CJ was in the other night, and I can't for the life of me figure out. Like, I thought I turned it off, and I just made it go higher. So I don't know. I don't know what the hell's going on over here. We got chaos going on over here. But I'll say this though, to what Sark was talking about. There's a couple things at play here. I think one, you can build a roster. Matt Brown showed everybody. You can build a roster that can win a national championship recruiting almost exclusively from the state of Texas. But because of the landscape in college football, I'm not going to say it's impossible, but it's not really feasible to have that kind of model anymore. If you want to compete with Georgia and Ohio State and Alabama and everybody else. The other part of that too, and I apologize to Jerry Hamilton. I don't want to butcher Jerry's numbers because Jerry laid it out. You're going to have the bulk of your roster is going to be from the state of Texas because you are the flagship school in the state. But basically, if your roster is primarily comprised of kids from the state of Texas, Southern California, Louisiana, the SEC footprint into the Carolinas, and maybe, like Arizona, Vegas area, maybe one or two from the Pacific Northwest or Hawaii, and then maybe you go up east. But probably 85% of your roster is going to be from those major metro areas that we talk about. Mm-hmm. If you build your roster like that, then you should be able to compete every year. And you're getting the right players from there. You should be able to compete for the SEC. You should be able to compete for a national championship. So I don't think it's impossible to have a roster exclusively of Texas kids or primarily, almost exclusively. I just think you're at that point, you're working harder, not smarter, to build a championship roster.
And Sark hinted at two, or kind of cited two things, right? The first was probably about 20 years ago. And Rod, I think you mentioned Mac Brown, or Jeff, it might have been you. Mac Brown obviously built all of those teams back in the aughts out of Texas, right? Maybe you'd have a Louisiana kid, maybe an Oklahoma kid. I think they're developing talent now. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Point being, you can't do that now. What was the big reason for that? Well, it was social media. Your tape now extends beyond state borders. You can have coaches everywhere seeing tape just from a click of a button. Too, it's conference realignment. Let's be quite frank about it. Not being in the SEC kept a lot of really impressive and talented trench talent away from Texas. Just saying, hey, I don't want to go play in the Big 12. That's not for me. I want to go play against the big dogs, the Jalen Carters, the Nolan Smiths, the Marcel Dariuses of the world. Let me go play against the guys that I know if I put up a good game against one of these guys, that could change my life when the NFL draft comes. Or I know that, hey, at least for 3 years, 4 years, I'm going against NFL caliber talent in the trenches that, quite frankly, you're not going to find, save maybe one or two teams in the Big 12. So Sark mentioned that as well off of the big podium. We didn't get to hear it on the stage, obviously, but he told us in those breakout areas, and it really put into perspective that, and Texas has been poached from everywhere. Right? Ohio State picks one or two guys from the state of Texas that's in the top 10, and no one bats an eye. It's like, oh, yeah, that's what the big programs do. Notre Dame's done that a tremendous job this year as well. Kids are more willing to go elsewhere and not stay close to home because of how easily accessible it is to, one, get to where they're going because of NIL, and two, for their families to watch them on TV, whereas it's no longer, Nebraska's benefiting from kids in Texas because, well, they play 6 times in the state. No. Now Nebraska's up north, and they've fallen into obscurity. So it's pretty interesting. But all in all, as long as Sark, Brandon Harris are in the same spot, Texas is going to be finding some pretty damn good football players and loading up, just as we've seen today, this year, last year, and even before that.
Yeah,
that's like. Sorry, Rod. Go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead, Jeff. Go ahead. You got it.
No, I was just going to say, like, if now that Texas has started, the NFL draft has turned around for Texas. Like, Texas is at the top of producing. They've been at the top the last 2 years, put more draft picks than anybody in the league. Texas winning at an elite clip, producing NFL talent at an elite clip. You've got more elite players that are interested in Texas. What? Telling those guys no and shrinking your pool, that's how Texas got into the position it was in for 12 years. Because if you look, and I love Mac Brown, but go look at how Mac recruited leading up to that national championship. Go look how he recruited after. It's two very differently constructed rosters, two talented rosters, but he wasn't taking a lot of chances. They weren't getting in the fight with some guys that they probably could have won recruitments for. It was more layups. It was more choosing. I mean, I hope Texas fans appreciate you've got a coach at Texas who's willing to go anywhere in the country to get elite players, and he's willing to fight Kirby Smart and Ryan Day and Kalen DeBoer and Lincoln Riley. Sark is Dabo Swinney. Sark is willing to get in those battles. Not only is he willing to get in those battles, he's willing to, hey, you lose James Johnson to Georgia, that's okay. Stay on it. Stay on it. If you think he's a guy that's going to make the difference between you going to the Alamo Bowl in December or getting ready for the college football playoff, you stay on it. And that's what Sark's done. So it's just a little persistence, a little forward thinking, a little proactive recruiting. Texas is doing right now under Sark exactly what I wanted Texas to do post-national championship under Mac Brown. Your talent pool, yes, you have to take care of your backyard, but it's not just the state of Texas. Your talent pool is the entire country now.
Yep.
Yeah, Sark's definitely treating it like that. I like this chat here from MJF before we move on to the next Sark quote, the last one we'll get to here. Aggies used move to SEC to negative recruit the Big 12 in Texas. He said Sark used to move to SEC to open up the other SEC states themselves. I will say the Aggie move, the SEC benefited from it like just as much, if not more overall, because they came into Texas. They came into Houston. They got inroads into Texas connection. I will say the Texas move to SEC, I mean, yeah, of course the SEC benefits, but it seems like Texas is benefiting just as much, if not more than that. I mean, than just the SEC overall. So I will say I'll give Sark credit for that. The Aggies got the bump too. I mean, we talked about that. I don't know if they are going to maximize the bump like Texas is about to. Remember that was Johnny was a part of that bump. That was Johnny Manziel the years. I mean, that was arguably the best. Now he wasn't the reason he was already on campus, but that whole turn of the Texas A&M program, like it was SEC, then Johnny, and then boom, 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 boom.
That was a hell of a pun there. Hell of a pun that I don't even think you knew you made there, Rod.
What did I do? I didn't even know. What did I say?
John was part of the bump.
Oh, no.
I think he would agree.
I really did. I didn't mean that, Johnny. I didn't mean that at all. I'm sorry about that.
He's admitted as much, right?
Yes, he has. Yes.
In recent years. No, I'll say this too, man. To your point, Rod, like A&M at that point had something that they never really had before then. They had an identity, like a clear, legit like identity, and they weren't able to do it. But we talked about this. Sark mentioned it there. Everybody kind of looked at it as like, oh man, Texas is going to have to go. What are you going to do? You're about recruiting in the Southeast. Now you got to go head to head. And Sark's mentality was like, bring it the F on. Those kids that I want, now they have a reason to want to come here. Mm-hmm. Because it's a conference opponent. So Tyler Atkinson said it perfectly on the McAfee show today. I can accomplish everything I want at Texas. Which if you're an elite high school player in the country, what do you want? You want to get ready for the NFL. You want to compete for a national championship. And I'm sure there are other individual things, and I'm sure NIL's got a lot to do with that. But whatever it is, even if it is getting the bag, you can do it all with that.
Yep. I agree with that. No doubt about it. All right. Let's get to the last Sark quote, and then we'll answer a couple of questions. I know we're getting close to the end of our live stream here. So a couple of more things. Let's hit this Sark quote about – he was asked about essentially a de facto salary cap. And every school having, their own limitations in this revenue sharing NIL world, and how Texas is, trying to find their own identity, their own unique strategy when it comes to their salary cap. I'm doing air quotes here. Here's what Sark had to say in response.
We're trying to build a roster that is one that can withstand the test of time. And we never wanted to come here and be a one-year wonder team and then the next year be not very good. So we're trying to be sustainable for a long period of time. I think that's what good programs do. And so managing that takes a lot into account. It takes a lot into ultimately the production of players. Are they performing? Right? And we've created this environment that this is a production-based business in sport. And so are players producing? One. Two, do they uphold the standards of the organization off the field? And if not, then that could be a factor. Three, we got to retain those players, because as much as we've built a really good roster, I promise you other schools are trying to hire our players off of our roster to get them to transfer. And our players are very transparent with me about that. And then the fourth piece is then we're trying to recruit to our roster. And so you only have so much money to go around. You got to be mindful of that. And you just don't want to be reckless with what you do. And now more than ever with a cap in place, you really have to be effective and efficient, and you have to make sure that you're filling your needs on your roster with high-level people when you know another high-level person is leaving, and or is this a depth move? And so it's no different than, hey, it's easy to say the NFL draft, you only get so many first-round picks, but man, your roster's really made up of those third, fourth, and fifth-round picks. It's not a whole lot different than that. We only have so much money to go around. And so we've got to do a great job evaluating. We've got to do a great job of rewarding those players that are doing it at a high level within our program so that they don't go anywhere else. But we've also got to continue to develop our players as they grow and make sure that our players aren't doing this for the idea of money. And I think sometimes, quite frankly, I think it hurts us a little bit in recruiting, in the fact that when kids come on our campus, one of the first things we do, we don't talk about NIL. We don't talk about NIL or revenue sharing or publicity rights until the very end. And that may hurt us on some kids, but if a kid is coming to Texas for that reason, we don't want them anyway. You know, we want kids that want to be at the University of Texas because of the school, the coaches, the team, the culture, all those things that go into it. And oh, by the way, you can get publicity rights or revenue share, so on and so forth. If you're coming for the other reason, he's probably going to be the guy in 18 months that's back in the portal going somewhere else where they're going to offer him more money, because I can't offer every player the most money that he might get offered from another school. It just doesn't work like that anymore.
All right, he finally said it, guys. We've known this, but Texas doesn't lead with the money. So don't talk about the money last. Thoughts, gentlemen, on Texas clarifying their approach in today's new landscape of college sports?
I think Texas fans are going to hear that and say, yes, that's exactly what I figured was the case. And that's exactly what we've been trying to explain to you is the case, right? A lot of these guys early in their recruitment say, hey, I'll go to the highest dollar amount or I'll commit very early, and then Texas will lose out and say, well, Texas hasn't even come to the table yet, or they haven't even sat down to discuss this. And in a way, it kind of weeds out the guys who, one, have dollars and cents on their minds a little bit higher, and two, you find the guys who really want to go to a school to develop, to be a part of the culture, to get an education. But I know that there are fans across the country saying, well, how do you do that? How do you say that? And then line up the sideline of DKR with Lamborghinis, Bentleys, and Rolls Royces. And how do you pitch NIL deals and penthouse living? Yeah. And look, my answer to that is quite simply, that's a byproduct of playing at the University of Texas, right? You know, Michael Taft did not come to the University of Texas because he was promised a Lamborghini. And that's where I think Texas is trying to go in its recruitment, is finding guys of similar value, saying, I want to go there because I feel like they are the best fit for me, and everything else is just stuff I can't get elsewhere. And that's essentially, in my eyes, what it is.
You're not going to bat 1,000, right? Sark's going to have misses at some point. You're not going to sign 25 guys and all 25 end up being first-round draft picks. It's just law of averages says you're going to lose some. But the culture right now at Texas is so good that I do think there is some substance to what Sark says, because if there wasn't, I don't think you'd be in the position you're in right now, number one. And number two, we would be hearing about guys that are maybe kind of tearing at the fabric of the culture. And because, Rob, you and I have been around you from the inside for a long time, and I've been around it long enough now. When things are going bad, there's no shortage of people willing to tell you why things are going bad and that things are going bad and what's happening. CJ, you know it too. Not hearing that right now at Texas. And I think it's a place that people legitimately want to be, for all the reasons we mentioned. But I think once you get there, I think by doing the work, that's what I'm saying, is by doing the work, you're able to enjoy the fruits of labor of Texas. Like the Lamborghini thing, right? Bijan had a Lambo deal, okay? If you want a Lambo at Texas, Sark can tell you, yeah, Bijan got the Lambo deal. Here's everything Bijan did leading up to that. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, he's a generational talent at running back. So, you got to be an even better person. Boom, 2 points for you, CJ. You got to have that. You got to have that, and you got to put in the work, and you got to be a good teammate, and you got to be a good leader, and you got to do the right thing. So, you're dangling the carrot out there, but what's attached to the carrot is not just, hey, come here and you'll get this. It's you have the opportunity to get this, but understand that there's a crap load of steps between you and that Lambo, if that's what you want.
And yep. Rod, let me get your thoughts on this, because look, we talk about the progression from 5 and 7, no one drafted, to 21 draftees, 2-time back-to-back trips to the college football playoff. But Sark also went down a pretty lengthy answer of the steps it's taken to get here, right? It started in the classroom. It started with the guys buying into the culture. It started with finding the right guys who didn't care if they were making money or not. And Daniel Ark comments just very plainly, 3.3 GPA. It's the highest the GPA at the University of Texas has ever been. You know what it was whenever Texas and Steve Sarkisian first got together? It was 2.31.
That's crazy.
But it's progressed. And it's because Sark has got guys into the locker room who care. Quite frankly, just care about schools, care about their education, care about going about things the right way, rather than how can I make the fastest dollar possible? Because those aren't the guys that are going to be the best for your program, best for the football facility, the university as a whole. But That was really interesting to go from a 2.31 to a 2.79 to a 2.9 to a 3.1, now to a 3.3, all while getting better on the field.
It's crazy.
The program's in a very healthy place.
Not a coincidence.
No. There haven't been many of the guys that I'm about to talk about, the types of guys, but the few Sark has been in position to be like, you don't like your NIL deal, you don't like your playing time, you're unhappy. There's the door. Like, that's the kind of roster you built right now. And most guys that have, from what I've been told, most of the guys that have come to Sark, and there haven't been that many of them. Yeah, want to make that clear. But most of those guys, they figure out, all right, no, I want to try to make this work. And there's been a very select few, though, that, they took the option of walking out the door. It's no hard feelings. It's just business. Like, Sark is all about business. Yes, folks, I see a lot of stuff in the chat. I'm okay. I'm good. Like, no alien abduction here. I just can't figure out how to turn the freaking ceiling fan on.
That's the only frustration Jeff has right now. It's a ceiling fan. Okay, let's thank our final sponsor of the evening, and then we'll answer a couple of super chats and end things. If you're looking to diversify, you may be someone like myself that has their hands in different businesses. Well, Andy Ludicky and his team can help you diversify by finding you different businesses that fit your time allotment and your financial goals. If you've been stuck in the corporate rat race with just 2 weeks PTO and no control over the money you make or your schedule in general, reach out to Andy and his team, and they'll take you through a very detailed process. They'll help you find a business that will fit your skill sets and your financial goals. Franchise ownership isn't for everyone, but if you have a desire to take control of your financial destiny, don't wait. Reach out to Andy today at 404-973-9901, or you can reach out to him at andy@myperfectfranchise.net. That's Andy at myperfectfranchise.net. All right, we got some super chats here. Apologize, guys. I want to get those Sark quotes in there, but let's hit the super chats here. Daniel with a super chat here says, pick one dark horse for the season. I've got Christian Clark, especially if Baxter is slow to come back. Thank you for the super chat, Daniel. Thoughts, gentlemen?
I like that pick. I'll go Kobe Black on the defensive side of the ball. That was one name that we heard a few times. Anthony Hill mentioned him as a guy who probably isn't getting enough love going into the season. But look, Grayson Littleton, if I really want to get into it, I can't go anywhere and talk Texas football with anybody that's a part of the program, that covers the program, that has any sort of insight and not hear that name. It's been almost 2 months straight of just like, hey, watch out for him. So we'll keep that on the docket for the fall coming up here.
Good to know.
First off, when I pull the chain on the ceiling fan, I'm worried about breaking it, so that's why I can't pull the chain. Okay, so let's just get that out of the way. Number two, we've talked a lot about Lance Jackson and Justice Terry, Cade Phillips, Grayson Littleton. Like, there's a lot. The Texans doesn't need to play freshmen, but there's a lot of freshmen that are just going to command snaps. I know linebacker is really crowded, but I think even if it's teams, Bo Barnes is helping this football team win games somehow this year.
Okay. I like that.
Can I also add Alex January? I feel like he's getting lost of the shuffle.
That's who I was going to go with. That's who
my bad, Rod.
No, you're good. No, I like that, though. I'm with you. Alex January is a good one. Yep, lost in the shuffle guy. A lot of guys will get lost in the shuffle. Linebackers, one of those positions, get lost in the shuffle there. CJ, I like what you brought up. I mean, that's good. I like that. All right, thank you for the super chat there, Daniel. We got another one here from Joshua. Joshua, thank you. Very kind of you with the super chat. Says, watching a lot of old Texas games this offseason, I couldn't help but ask, Rod, do you believe you had the best drip on the team, or who had the best swag at Texas all time? Oh, man, no, there were some guys who were way cleaner than me when they dressed. I was clean, but some guys came after me was clean. Like, I remember watching them. Like them 05 guys was clean. 05 and 06 guys, like, even though, like, go back and look at like A. Ross was clean back in the day. Like A. Ross had a clean.
Yeah.
Like A. Ross knew how to. He used to have like the arm, the sleeves, like he was clean. I'm trying to think of somebody else who was just really clean in the overall look. I used to love Roy with the dark visor. Oh man, he was so long. He looked like something out of a comic book or something when he walked out there, dude. I liked Roy Williams. I thought Roy Williams was always clean. Just
dark visor and the icy whites. Woo!
Woo.
I We're in Atlanta, so Jeff, help me out here. Start singing the song with me. Ain't nobody dope as me. I'm just so fresh, so clean. So fresh and so clean.
Yeah, man.
Come
See,
on.
it's a whole soul for real.
I'm not gonna disrespect Andre and Big Boy like that. So I'll leave that to you, CJ. I'll leave that to you. I'll tell you who had. I'll give you one with underrated drip. Aaron Williams had underrated drip while he played.
Did. Yep, good one. That's a good one. That is clean, right? He was always clean because he had the visor too all the time. He looked like. Oh, you know who else was clean? I always thought Kenny Vaccaro was clean.
I was gonna say Kenny was another one. Yeah.
He looked clean out there. Sometimes I was jealous of guys that had out attached like that. Like, that's clean. Now I would never do it, but it looked when you're a good football player and you tapped up like that, and it looked clean. I ain't gonna lie, it looked clean out there. It ain't gonna look good when he's like 60, but it's gonna look clean right now. The clean.
Hey, I'll tell you this, Rod. A guy you played with that win, lose, or draw, he always had a clean look. Another guy in that wide receiver, BJ Johnson.
Yeah.
BJ Johnson lived by the theme: look good, feel good, play good.
Yeah, he was spat up too. It did a spat.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you for the super chat there, Joshua. A couple of more here before we get done. One says, "At CJ, what's the buzz on Zayden Crimpin and Jake Cruel?"
Yeah, I haven't heard a lot on Zayden Crimpin. I know that Texas they got 3 in the fold on the offensive line. I know that Malachi Lee is going to be a guy that they recruit all the way throughout his signing day as well. It'll be interesting to see if they make inroads on one or the other over the next few months, but I haven't heard a whole lot on Zayden Crimpin. I have heard some chatter on Jake Cruel, and originally I thought that was going straight up to Norman, Oklahoma. Florida's in the mix there, but look, that's a really, really talented edge rusher, really lightning quick off the edge. Texas, I've heard more chatter in the last week than I expected. Not to say that this is one where Texas going to come from behind like Tyler Atkinson or even make a big splash flip like James Johnson. I'm not going to say that yet, but the chatter is getting louder. So I'll leave it with that.
I like that. Another one, 817 Mr. Talk Too Much says, CJ, give me your best Kirby visor toss. We already got one here. Oh, see, yeah. See, that's for the ladies. See, now Matthew's gonna make something out of that too. You shouldn't have did it.
Well, you know, Kirby's got the comb over, so he's got to fix the hair after the throw.
That's a good point. And think about that. Football Junkie with another. Thank you for the super chat. 817 Mr. Talk Too Much. Football Junkie. W for Texas today. Players represented the school well. Some good-looking athletes. Yeah, how about this one to end things on, guys? Anything said by the players today that stood out to you?
We've heard it from Arch several times, but there was no place that he ever wanted to go other than Texas. He said it. I don't know how many times I can count by now. But this is the place where he's always wanted to be. It's been the coach where he's always wanted to be coached by. It's, quite frankly, just the fit for him that he felt like was best for him. Michael Taft, how often that he said to represent this great university is something that he's just been so blessed to do. And again, we didn't even get to touch on this, but it deserves its own recognition. Michael Taft's tie, a tribute to the tragedy and the Texas flooding. There isn't a better representation to the University of Texas, to the football program, to the city of Austin than a Michael Taft. And I think Texas fans are very fortunate to have another year of him. I know that locker room certainly is. So a tip of the cap to Michael Taft, because like that's great. I really do like seeing that. And of course, he was at P. Terry's earlier this week, working a fundraiser for those affected by the flood. So Texas very well represented, not just by Arch Manning and 2 All-Americans from a year ago, but just tremendous people. Anthony Hill, very much the same. Mm-hmm. Very, very cool afternoon at SEC Media Days, listening to these guys just talk about the people that they are and the people in this locker room. It's a really cool deal.
There was a story that I don't want to try to retell the whole thing because I'm worried I'll butcher it. But basically, Arch's favorite place to eat in Austin is Matt's El Rancho. I don't think that's a shocker to anybody. And Michael Taft basically said, Arch always wants to go to Matt's. He's like, I don't want to go to Matt's. Like, basically, Michael Taft told Arch, like, I don't want to be your personal photographer all night. Can we just go somewhere else? That said, though, Michael Taft, when he was doing his scrum at the end, somebody asked him about, hey, who's the hardest worker on the team? Who's the most competitive? He points across the room at Arch. He said, I'll tell you what. He's like, the most competitive guy on offense is that guy right over there. And I'm telling you, I keep going back to it, Rod. We talked a lot about it. The game adjustments and improvements Arch made from the ULM game to Mississippi State. I know it's ULM and Mississippi State. I get that. But it's not just all sizzle, no steak with Arch. There's substance there. There's real stuff. There's tangible stuff you can latch onto. This isn't just an overcooked hype machine. Arch Manning can play, and we're all about to figure it out. The country's about to figure it out. We've gotten a little taste of it, but this isn't – the hype is exceptional. Like, it's – the circus was everything I thought it would be. But if anybody has been prepared their whole lives to handle it and can handle it and is handling it, it's that guy, and he's doing it the right way.
It's great stuff. Great way to end things, too. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate that. Thank you, CJ, as well, man. You guys putting in great work down there at SEC Media Day. So thank you guys for the hard work. Let's also everybody give Matthew a round of applause because nobody. Hell yeah. Matthew these days. He's the real MVP, folks. I assure you. I'm going to get off of this thing so Matthew can get some sleep, maybe get a drink, something to eat. Thank you guys for joining us. We really appreciate you guys. Thanks for all the super chats as well. You guys are very kind tonight with the super chats. We appreciate all the questions and comments. Thank you to all of our sponsors as well. Thank you to Andy Ludicky and his team. Thank you to Mark Saunders, the Texas All-State agent. We appreciate him sponsoring our Tuesday night live stream. And also thank you to Duck Camp, duckcamp.com as well. If we missed any of your questions, please direct them to the gentleman at Coffee and Football bright and early tomorrow morning, Jerry and Bobby. That'll be at 8:15. We'll also have another 7:15 p.m. live stream tomorrow. It might be the same crew here, honestly. So we'll be back to bring it to you. If we missed any of your questions, please just direct them to us tomorrow or to Bobby and Jerry tomorrow. Thank you guys for joining us. Really appreciate that for Jeff and for CJ and for Matthew. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Until next time, hook 'em horns.
Hook 'em, no abduction.